Welcome to our program on Kardec Radio.
Hello dear friends, welcome back to Spiritism and the Media here on Kardec Radio. Today I'd like to bring a passage from the book The Messengers by Francisco Cândido Xavier, brought to us by the Spirit André Luiz. So in this chapter, it is chapter 43, and in this passage that I brought to us, André Luiz and the instructor Aniceto, they are watching some spirits. They are apparently very, very ill, like carrying diseases. And Aniceto is explaining something to André Luiz that I think is very important for us, that we can bring that teaching to us when talking about media, when talking about reading and watching. We are going to see that. And so I think it's important for us to study this passage so we can understand how we can better act in our daily lives in order to avoid the situation that those spirits are facing in the afterlife. So here, they are watching those spirits arriving there, and André Luiz says, "Indeed, the recent arrivals had deep anguish imprinted on their faces. There was a large number of sobbing women. It was truly a disturbing scene. A few spirits held their hands to their bellies or were pressing down on wounded areas. Many were wearing bandages and dressings." So André Luiz is describing those spirits. They are carrying some diseases, some illnesses, some wounds in their spiritual bodies in that place. And so Aniceto explains, A lot of them, said Aniceto, have yet to face the realities of the corporeal death, and by and large, they are always slaves to the idea of illness. There are people, and you as doctors have known many, who actually take pleasure in cultivating illness. They enjoy detailed diagnosis, monitor with indescribable passion the appearances of signs of death in their bodies, and study theories regarding their illnesses very carefully, but without taking such care in analyzing their daily obligations. So here he's describing like some people who enjoy, for example, searching for some diseases and seeing the symptoms, and it's very common. We see that it's very common. I may say to almost all of us to read about some disease, to have some information, and at the same time we try to diagnose ourselves to say, okay, so may I have it or not? Let me check if I have those symptoms. If I have one of them, like I may think that, oh, I have this disease. So it's something that many of us, we can keep that in our mind. Just remembering now we are still here under the pandemic. So in the beginning of the pandemic of the coronavirus, many people could just have one of those symptoms some symptoms are very similar to a flu, for example, and the people would also already think that they had the COVID-19, and so they can keep that in their mind, thinking, oh, hey, I have the disease, and creating that image, reinforcing that feelings in their own brain, in their own physical body, and in their own spiritual body. So it's something that we all can do that in our daily lives, and it's something that is very easy for us to do, especially when we are reading information about some disease, or we go online to just search about certain symptoms that we have, and we have many pages with many different information to check. So it's something that today, as we have access to more information, it is something easier for us to do. And here Aniceto is seeing how dangerous it can be. So he goes on here and says, and when they can't find what they're looking for in books, they count on lengthy attention from their doctors, the scrupulous care of nurses, and long lectures on their illnesses to which they are willing prisoners. So at that time, they only had the books to search. Today, we have the internet. So we have access, as I said, to more information and that make us prisoners of those illnesses, even though we don't have them, or if we have them, it can reinforce those symptoms, reinforce all those characteristics of those diseases. So it's something that can be harmful for us. And now I decided to explain what's happened in the afterlife. After discarnating, it is far more difficult for them to understand the truth, since they continue with their dominant ideas. Sometimes, deep down, they are good souls who are dedicated to their kin and are useful in the restricted area of understanding when they have taken refuge. But nevertheless, they have been bogged down in mental contamination for many centuries. So we know that we can keep that characteristic of our personality for centuries. So it's something that we may do today that we may have been doing in the past. For the past incarnations that we have, we go to the spiritual realm, keep doing that, we come back here, we keep doing that. So it's very important for us how we search for that information, and especially what we do with the information that we have, because we have contaminated ourselves with that. We need to know how to use in a good way the information that we have. And here, especially when Aniceto and Andrea Luiz are talking about the diseases, so it's very important. We know that today we have access to many different sources. But what are we doing with that information that we receive? What are we doing with the things that we have access to? So it's very important for us to do that. So I will just read the next paragraph. So Aniceto have a conclusion here, and with a different expression, he reflected, it takes all of us ages to break out the old shell of individualism. The vision of universality carries a high price tag, and we aren't always willing to pay it. We don't want to renounce our old tastes, and we run from making praiseworthy sacrifices. Under such circumstances, the world that prevails for a long time for the discarnate soul is the personal kingdom of our lower creations. So we create those mental images. We create many times the disease that we have. It's something that can start in our mind and then goes to our spiritual body and to our physical body. Thus, those who have cultivated illness have submitted themselves to this empire. While incarnate, it is only logical that we offer every assistance to our physical body, which functions as a sacred vessel, but fixing one's health while at the same time contaminating one's mind are two essentially contradictory approaches. So we should not contaminate our minds, and that's something that many times we do. We may know that, or we may do that without even knowing that, but it's something that usually we can do. So here is a good advice for us to be aware and try not to do that. So to finish, I'll read a passage from the book Happy Life by Joan de Angelis, channeled by Divaldo Franco. I'm going to open that randomly. So number 126. A bit of inner silence will do you a lot of good. The constant hustle and bustle, endless worries, and the unexpected all diminish one's moral endurance. It is imperative to set aside some time to recover and practice inner silence. Pray silently, calmly. Let your ideas flow spontaneously, recomposing your emotional and nerve pathways so that you may rejoin the struggle. During such times, reconnect with yourself and experience the joy of loving, caring for, and renewing yourself so that no traces of negativity remain. Thank you so much for your company. May God bless all of us. See you next week.